Hello Super Sleuths, I'm Gumshu, and today I'll be your Deck Detective. Deck Detective is a series in which every week I play and discuss a new deck. This week we're looking at Runick, the newest archetype in a long line of things Reddit loves to complain about. Runick is a deck of spells and quote-unquote fusion monsters, with the objective of decking your opponent out, centered around Runick Fountain, the deck's insane advantage enabler. It's an unorthodox gimmick that requires outside help to make it really effective, which it finds in mill engines, stall cards, and floodgates. Played pure, this deck saw niche success in the OCG and TCG, but the best of one format has made this deck a surprise superstar in Master Duel, currently listed as the second best deck on Master Duel meta, and has the second most entries in Duelist Cup max level deck lists. Enough stalling, or maybe not enough, let's talk about these cards. This deck is split into spells and extra deck monsters. The spells themselves are split into quick play spells and non-quick play spells. Let's talk about the latter first. Runick Fountain. You can activate Runick Quick Play spells from your hand during your opponent's turn. Once per turn, if you activate a Runick Quick Play spell card, you can target up to 3 Runick Quick Play spell cards in your graveyard, place them on the bottom of your deck in any order, then draw the same number of cards. Recommended ratios, 3. The most important card in the deck, and maybe one of the best cards in the game. A soft once per turn that can draw 3 every turn with a little setup. Searchable by Hugin. If things go right, you can draw 9 or more cards in a turn. Next up is Runick Allure, continuous spell. Each time a quick play spell card activates, banish the top card of your opponent's deck. You can only control one Runick Allure. This card is not great and is recommended at 0 or 1, but over the course of a game it can speed up the clock on deck out by a turn or two. Searchable by Munin. And now for the quick play spells. They all are a hard once per turn and all have 2 effects, the second of which being the same. They all special summon a Runick from the extra deck to the extra monster zone. First up is Runick Tip. It can add a Runick card from your deck to your hand except itself, then banish the top card of your opponent's deck. The recommended ratio is 3. It searches any card in the deck and is a free Runick engrave. Simple as. Next up is Runick Flashing Fire. It targets a special summon monster your opponent controls, destroys it, and then banishes the top 2 cards from your opponent's deck. Recommended ratio is 3. Good effect, and we need Runick cards for Fountain. Next up is Runick Destruction. It targets a spell trap your opponent controls, destroys it, then banishes the top 4 cards of your opponent's deck. You play 3 of this, it's a good effect, and even more relevant than normal due to the abundance of back row in this format. Next up is Runick Freezing Curses. It targets an effect monster the opponent controls, negates its effects, and then banishes the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. You play that one at 3, it's a good effect, and you need Runick cards. Next up is Runick Slumber. You can target one face-up monster on the field. The next time that monster to be destroyed by a battle or card effect this turn, it is not destroyed, but it cannot attack this turn, then banish the top 3 cards of the opponent's deck. You play that one at 3. While unassuming at first, this card is one of the easiest Runicks to activate and saves you from taking damage more often than you'd think. It also protects monsters you want on the field from getting destroyed by something like a Raigeki. Next up is Runick Smiting Storm. Banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck up to the number of cards they control. You play this at 1 or 2. In my opinion, the worst Runick quick play, but it can mill a lot, is still a Runick name for Fountain, and is the only Runick that can banish up to its maximum instead of a set amount like the other Runicks have to, meaning you can activate this no matter what your opponent's deck size is. Next up is Runick Droplet, Golden Droplet. Your opponent draws 1 card, then you banish the top 4 cards of their deck. You play this at 1 to 3. It's a mill 5. Next up is Runick Dispelling. If your opponent adds a card from their deck to the hand, except during the draw phase, you can discard 1 random card from their hand, then banish the top 2 cards of their deck. It's one of the hardest Runicks to make use of, and so you only play it at 1 or 2, but it has nice synergy with Golden Droplet for more milling. You can combo the 2 to mill 7 cards from your opponent's deck. The other half of the cards are the fusion monsters, which help the deck search or stay alive. First we have Hugin the Runick Wings. If this card is special summon for the extra deck, you can discard 1 card and 1 Runick Field spell from your deck to your hand. If another card you control would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card you control instead. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, return this card to the extra deck. This is the best monster here. It searches Fountain, has the effect to protect any other card from being destroyed, even if summoned mid-chain. One of the reasons to play this deck is it makes you immune to Duster and Lightning Storm. Also, it's level 2. If that doesn't mean anything to you, don't worry, it will. Next up is Munin the Runick Wings. If this card is special summoned from the extra deck, you can discard 1 card, add a Runick Continuous spell from your deck to your hand. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a Runick card you control or a set card you control, quick effect, you can banish this card you control, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Once per turn, during the end phase, gain 1,000 life points. Probably the worst monster here, it searches Allure, protects from targeted removal, although it has to be on field prior to the removal, unlike Hugin, and gains life points. It's okay, and you don't really have anything else to play in its place. Next up is Gary! The Runick Fangs cannot be destroyed by card effects. If this card is special summoned from the extra deck, you can target one non-quick play Runick spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand. When this card is destroyed by battle, you can target a card on the field and destroy it. It's a removal that protects from battle and can add Fountain and Allure from grave to hand, resulting in efficient recycling of your draw power. Chaining these to use Fountain over and over again feels amazing. Now that we have all the cards known, let's get into the list. Here's the list, and yes, that last segment was useful, because we're playing every Runick. Before we begin, I'd like to say that this deck is very flexible in what you can play with the Runick cards. Even without considering future releases, there are a lot of variants, so if stalling is not your cup of tea, you can also consider Invoked, Lightsworn Synchro, Fabled Synchro, we saw Runick Orchestra in the last video, Sky Striker Runick, Musketeer Runick, the list goes on and on. Now for the deck list. 3 copies of Cyber Valley, a very old card that makes a comeback for one of its effects. You can target one face of monster control on this card, banish both these targets, then draw 2 cards. It's one of the best targets off Reasoning and Monster Gate, allows you to continue drawing cards and clears your EMZ to search more stuff with your Runick extra deck monsters. Next up is Reasoning and Monster Gate. They serve very similar functions in the deck, which is to put Runick spells into the graveyard for Fountain, while accessing Cyber Valley to draw more cards. Your opponents will oftentimes call 4 or 2 with this card if you don't know what you're up to, because they're afraid of cards like Inspector Border and Cyberstein. You have Terraforming and Runick Fountain. This is the best card in the deck. Terraforming obviously to search it, and it's just incredible. Went over it, but it is central to you winning the game. Runick Allure, 2 Cosmic Cyclones. This is for the Runick Mirror match. Obviously, the Hugin protects the Fountain from like Harpy's Feather Duster and stuff like that, so Cosmic Cyclone gets around that problem. 3 Runick Tip, 3 Flashing Fire, 3 Destruction, 3 Freezing Curses, 3 Slumber, 1 Smiting Storm, 2 Golden Droplet, and 1 Dispelling, for a grand total of 19 Runick Quick Play spells. I told you, we need a lot of them to power Runick Fountain. And finally, 5 Trap Card Floodgates, the 2 goes in match, and the 3 there can be only 1. These are the ones that Runick play under the best. There's reasons for why I'm not playing the other ones. Skill Drain removes the protection for that Hugin has for your back row. Some other ones just don't feel as impactful enough for me going second, like Kaiser Coliseum and Dimensional Fissure. I think these are the best 5 that I would like to be playing, and we can access them fairly consistently with Cyber Valley and just the insane number of draw spells we're playing in the deck. 3 Hugin, 2 Munin, 3 Gary. You can absolutely play a 3rd Hugin over one of these gravity controllers. These gravity controllers are a way to shuffle back the opponent's extra monster zone monsters. Next up, we have Nightmare Phoenix and Nightmare Unicorn. These do come up occasionally. You have the Cyber Valley as another monster for link material, but do know that you won't be summoning these most of the time, as well as Lina and Dark. Your fusion monsters are light and dark, so these can be made as well. Without further ado, let's get into the games. We'll play 2 games, one in which I win that I commentate over, and one in which I lose that I commentate over. The game is afoot. Let's get milling. Our first game is up against Marincess. In this game shows the peak of Runick gameplay, using its cards to force out interactions so that you can push through the floodgates and winning cards you need. Before we get to that though, we need to get through the standard Marincess combo. You go into Fiscalis to summon Seahorse from hand, then use Seahorse to go into Blue Slug. Blue Slug adds back Seahorse before they summon Seahorse from hand to Blue Slug's link point with its effect. They link Seahorse into Sea Angel and use its effect to search Battle Ocean. They then use their link monsters to make a royal rare Coral Anemone, and use Coral Anemone to summon back the Seahorse. Boy, that Seahorse is getting rode into the ground. Use Seahorse and Fiscalis to make Crystal Heart, showing that they're going for an unaffected Argonaut line. They reveal the Spring Girl in hand, banishing the Seahorse to summon out, then use Coral Anemone and Spring Girl to make Coral Triangle, using Anemone's Graveyard effect to add back Spring Girl, along with Spring Girl's effect to maybe do 400 damage to us. It resolves, Spring Girl adds back, and then the milling happens, and we take 200 damage. Coral Triangle effect to discard the Spring Girl and search the Marincess Wave Trap card before activating Battle Ocean and using Crystal Heart and Coral Triangle to make their Link 4 Marincess Aqua Argonaut. Battle Ocean effect, equipping it with Coral Anemone, Coral Triangle, and Blue Slug. They set 1 and pass to us. We go and draw for turn a Runick Slumber. Not a bad draw. Our main objective is to get rid of that Aqua Argonaut, and to do that, we're going to need to get rid of Battle Ocean. We activate Terraforming, and currently what we're trying to do is bait out the Argonaut negate so we can use Destruction on Battle Ocean. We search a fountain, activate the fountain, and our opponent holds firm. We use Tip to search curses, again, they hold firm. Unable to bait anything out, we use Destruction on Battle Ocean, at that point forcing the negate, because we're threatening curses to negate their negate if they do not. We use Reasoning, and it's time for a very long mill segment. They call 4, and oh, it's actually not that long of a mill. We get 1, our Cyber Valley. We then activate Curses to summon Gary, and then use the fountain to draw 3 cards, drawing a TC-Boo, an Allure, and a Flashing Fire. And our biggest objective is to make sure that TC-Boo goes through, as it's very, very good against Marincess. We use Phoenix to try and destroy the Battle Ocean, and then they use Imperm to stop us from doing that. Frustrating, because we know they have the wave in hand. We activate another fountain, then activate Flashing Fire to go for the now useless Munin, since we have the Allure in hand. We use Allure, then use Fountain to try and draw 3 more cards, which goes through. It resolves, Fountain puts them all back, then draws 3 cards, a Reasoning, another Flashing Fire, and another Fountain. We banish a Chaos Hunter, that's pretty funny. And then we use Unicorn, discarding the 3rd fountain to try and shuffle back the ocean, forcing out the Marincess wave. That resolves, and their monsters are now unaffected by card effects for the rest of the turn, and after which we activate Reasoning, and they again call level 4, which is very surprising to me, and very fortunate for us, because it would have accomplished nothing otherwise. We use a Cyber Valley effect to vanish, draw 2 cards, and pass turn. On draw phase, we activate Curses to try and coax the opponent to negate it, then try to get the opponent to negate Fountain. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't know until after this chain that Argonaut only negates on the opponent's turn, so they cannot negate any of my stuff with Argonaut. So all of that resolves, Allure banishes a card, and then I now realize that they cannot negate TC-Boo, so I decide to try and wait for their Argonaut effect to bounce up cards before I flip TC-Boo, which locks them into the Aqua Argonaut. Coral Anemone effect adds back the Marincess wave. And then, battle phase, they try to swing for 37, which I summon Gary, hoping to out the Battle Ocean, but not before I use Allure effect to banish a card, and then Gary to try to add back Fountain. They Marincess wave to negate the Gary, knowing that they can use Piscalis and Grave, add back the wave on for my next turn. Main phase 2, they decide not to attack Gary with Aqua Argonaut, which is a little frustrating, but it's nice knowing that they refuse to advance their game state to a winning position. They add back the wave, and then we draw for turn. I draw Cosmic Cyclone, a great way to out the ocean before setting it and passing, instead of using it, as I didn't realize that they couldn't Aqua Argonaut negate because of TC-Boo. I think it's an extra draw, but it doesn't end up mattering because we have them well under lock. We use Cosmic Cyclone to banish the ocean, then Allure to banish another card, and then Flashing Fire to finally destroy the Aqua Argonaut. Allure to banish, and then Fountain to draw 2 more cards, and our advantage is just too much at this point. They concede, not able to do anything. We won games, now it's time to lose games. Very similar hand to the last game, but we're going first. We activate Terraforming to search our only target, Runick Fountain, then activate Freezing Curses, using its special summon effect to summon Munin. Since we already have Fountain in hand, we want to search Allure, which we do, discarding a Fountain. We then activate Runick Allure, summon Cyber Valley, then use the effect to banish itself and Munin to draw 2 cards. We activate Fountain, then use Droplet to summon Hugin. We already have a Fountain, obviously, but we want the protection from Hugin, and we also want to draw cards off Fountain. So, we use Fountain effect, putting back 2, with Chain Link 1 being the mandatory effect of Runick Allure. I really wish that card was not mandatory, as it would be an amazing chain block tool if it wasn't. We draw Cosmic, set it, and pass. Our opponent in main phase 1 normal summons Rocket Synchron. That's right, we're playing against Dragon Link. They link into Striker Dragon and use its effect to search Boot Sector Launch before banishing Rocket Synchron to summon White Dragon. They link summon Dragunity Knight Romulus and Chainlink 1 Romulus to search Dragon Ravine, Chainlink 2 White Dragon Wyver Buster to search Black Dragon Collapse Serpent. That resolves Black Dragon to hand, and then Dragon Ravine to hand. They then summon Black Dragon Collapse Serpent and link into Seals. In hindsight, I should have used the Flashing Fire on Romulus, but I'm so used to looking at the insane combo boss monsters that Dragon Link is known for that the simple Hermetic Seals gets overlooked. This card is very bad for us, able to remove our fountain in a way that gets around Hugin and Flashing Fire. Fortunately, they don't do that yet, and we use Destruction on Dragon Ravine as they use the effect, pitching Safer, or chaining Quick Launch, fearing that I'll banish the target they want. Chain resolves, they summon Silver Rocket before I pop Ravine and banish 4 cards from their deck, 2 more to follow with Allure. Chain resolves, banishing a Maxi, and then banishing an Absoluter Dragon. They then drop Levianeer, which I did not know they had in hand, and this presents a big problem for us, as since they non-targeting destroy 2 cards, they can destroy both the Fountain and keep Hugin from protecting it by also destroying the Hugin, as Hugin cannot protect cards if itself is also getting destroyed by the effect. I have to let it go. Hugin mandatory effect to shovel itself back to the extra deck before they use Boot Sector Launch. I have the Cosmic Cyclone for its effect, but they have the Quad Boral Dragon after it's removed, and when they use its effect to discard Tracer, I know a Boral load is in my future. They summon the Tracer and the Silver Rocket Dragon, and Synchro for Borreload Savage Dragon. Borreload Savage Dragon effect, equip Romulus from Graveyard to give it 2 Boral counters. They swing for 3,600. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the FTK Seals Savage Pass. At this point, things are pretty hopeless. I try to do something, hoping they won't Savage Negate, but even if they do, they can just Seals bounce back the Fountain, and I won't get any draws. They do end up Savage Negating the Gary, and I'm left with just a Monster Gate, which will not do anything. I Flashing Fire, go ahead and destroy the Borreload Savage Dragon, because, well, I can. But that doesn't stop the negate. It's not like Appaloosa, unfortunately. Runick Alert, banish a card, banish an Ash, then Alert, banish another one, banish Tidying, and I do a Hopeless Monster Gate, knowing that they can just Seals bounce the Cyber Valley it summons. And this is the Mill of Shame, folks. We are waiting for our demise. Anytime now. There we go. We go to end phase, skipping battle phase, but they Seals back the Cyber Valley, then use a Seals effect to summon a Red MD. I'm not actually sure if they had guaranteed lethal off the Red MD, but they could have summoned Safer, linked Safer into Striker Dragon, then Safer add back Levianeer. Levianeer summon, that's 4,000 damage guaranteed, but it doesn't matter as they have the Dragon Maid Tidying to lethal us. I struggled to interact with them in a meaningful way, and it resulted in me running out of gas to push through their interaction. We take the L. Wow, this deck is equal parts good and annoying. It's like playing Eldritch, but the Eldritch cards are good and you don't lose to Duster anymore. We've done our investigation, now let's get into the closing argument. Verdicts are the same as usual. Going by predicted expected ranking, law-abiding nursing home resident is below platinum, harmless delinquent is platinum, lone wolf is low diamond, while public enemy number 1 is diamond 1. Now at Prejudgment, Runick. This deck has a lot going for it. Floodgates are just as good as ever, and given this deck's unusual win condition, this deck cares less about its Floodgates than any deck before it. The insane advantage generated from Fountain means that left unanswered, you can amass a board state that is near unbreakable. Hugin is a massive help to both of the former points. Your back row being untouchable by common back row sweepers makes this deck both resilient and frustrating for your opponent. It is not, however, not without its weaknesses. You need a lot of Runick cards to make the engine roar. If you don't see enough of them in your hand or through milling, you're vulnerable to disruption or, if really unlucky, just running out of gas. The deck has limited forms of interaction. You can't get to exactly what it needs reliably. If an opponent can maneuver around floodgates and is unfazed by targeted negation, single target removal, and back row destruction, then you might find your deck just doesn't do enough to win. Fortunately, this takes some bad luck or a godlike opponent to be a real problem. This deck does have its blowout matchups. A Labyrinth player resolving Eradicator Epidemic Virus, or a well-timed Imperial Iron Wall, Artifact Lancia, or Chaos Hunter can be a real problem. Also, Cosmic Cyclone and Fountain hurts, and a good old Ash Blossom can be a pain too. All in all, although it has its dud games, it has many games in which its grind becomes a monster to deal with. The power advantage game, access to many crazy floodgates, and the fact that a lot of people just won't sit through a game with this deck gets the channel's first public enemy number 1. Although, for the record, I still think Branded and Sword Soul are better decks. Thank you for watching. If you'd like more guidance on how to make this deck work from people who have played the deck more than me, I highly recommend the Runick Discord server and the Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetype repository, or the Runick channel in the Master Duel Metal Discord server. If you like this video, consider liking and subscribing to me, and also comment below what you liked, what you think needs improvement, or tell me my list was garbage and that I should consider prolonged grass touching. Also, check me out on Twitter, where I follow other VTubers and Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, as well as post updates and my thoughts, and Twitch, where I stream Master Duel rank climbs, other Master Duel or Yu-Gi-Oh! Related content, and other games. Also, if you would like to discuss my content or Yu-Gi-Oh! In general with other like-minded people, consider joining my Discord, linked in the description. Thank you, and have a good day.